Vocal warm up. Mm.
Do your thing.
Ma. Ma. Okay.
You done?
Yep. Wait, I
All
gotta
right.
warm up. I gotta do one more. Okay, now I'm good.
Hello and welcome to the Nerdy Wordy, a show where we're hoping that we are not variants. We are your hosts. I am Robert.
I'm Billy.
And today we have a good amount of stuff to talk about today. We're going to be primarily talking about the new episode of Loki that just came out, the first episode. We got comic book stuff as usual from me, and Billy has, of course, whatever he's going to do. Maybe he's just going to sit there and do nothing this time.
It'll be a surprise. We'll see.
How you doing, Billy?
I'm not doing too bad. How about you?
I'm doing pretty good.
Yeah. I can't wait to hear what you have to say about this Loki episode. There's so much to go into with this thing.
Mm.
I think we should
So
just get
let's
started on that.
so let's start off with the first word. And do you want me to start on this one, really?
I want you to start on this one.
Okay. So first word on the Loki series. I thought it was a really good episode. There were some points in the episode where I was like, oh my God. And then there were other points where I was like, oh, that's kind of sad. Like there's a lot of mixed emotions with this. Nothing negative. It was pretty positive with everything, but everything was like, there were some points that were sad, some points that were like exciting and everything. So I was pretty intrigued with this episode. There's a lot of things, a lot of details that I did like about this episode that I think is going to be really interesting. Maybe there's one scene in particular that I don't know if you know much about. We're going to discuss about that little scene that I'm going to talk about. But yeah, overall, I think this was a very good first episode, and I think it's just going to go up from here.
I think so too. I agree with everything you said.
Mm.
I'm going to call out one specific scene because I think it's funny for my first word. I actually didn't consciously think of this, and my whole family for the most part is a Marvel fan. So when my mom was watching it, because we were watching it all together, and at the very beginning when Loki was watching the video about explaining why he was there, and it was like the old 80s kind of cheesy animation thing that kind of looked like it was from Jurassic Park.
Hmm.
Um, she's like, "Why is it? Why are they on Earth? Why is like enforce time everywhere, right? Why does the video specifically take place on Earth with Earth businessmen and people? Why isn't it
Mm.
like someone from another planet?" I just thought it was funny that it was centered around Earth when Earth is like the only planet that didn't know about aliens, and every other alien planet seems to talk with one another except with Earth, but it was
Hmm.
focused on Earth. I just thought that was funny.
Well, I think it's because like every single Marvel either comic book or TV show or movie has to center something around Earth.
Mm,
So it's kind of the same thing. Like if you even think like Guardians of the Galaxy, what does that entail? That entails the Earth as well, because there's at least one person who is a human from
yeah.
Earth. And even Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, we have scenes taking place from Earth when Ego releases his spawn basically onto the entire universe. Like one of the spawn is in the Earth and it starts to expand the Dairy Queen and everything. So everything at least has to encompass Earth in some form or fashion for us to kind of, as an audience, understand it a little bit, you know?
Yeah, I agree for like a comic book writing perspective or like a cinematic reason it makes sense that it would be centered around the Earth. That
Mm-hmm.
way it's more relevant to us watching it. I just think it was funny. Because if you think about it logically, if we're gonna start making things logical in there, then it should focus on other places as well. I don't know.
Mm.
It was just funny. Not a big point. I'm gonna be quiet now.
So how do you want to approach this episode, Billy? Do you want to do it chronologically, or do you want to just highlight the main points and main scenes that you kind of want to discuss a little bit about?
That's a good question. I don't
Because I
have
feel
any
like
particular
chronologically, it's just going
preference.
to take a long time, and I feel like just highlighting the main scenes are going to be very like a lot more interesting, you know?
Yeah, let's do that then.
Okay. So, is there any particular scene that you want to talk
Yes.
about? And I think I want you to just get this out of the way right now, so that way we can get on to the other stuff. Because I feel like you're dying inside right now.
So there's two scenes particular.
Okay.
Um, One that they connected to the multiverse,
Yes.
and I know you're gonna love that because that connects directly to Doctor Strange. So I want to
Mm-hmm.
hear your opinion on that.
Yep.
But also the part where they're like using Infinity Stones as paperweights. Like, come
Yeah.
on! Like the entire first decade of Marvel was building up the power of these Infinity Stones, and they're building up to like Endgame and stuff like that, and like all this, and then they're using them as paperweights. Like a decade was built, like a whole decade was spent talking about their significance and importance, and then like they're just like
Yeah.
they're useless there. And I just thought that
Mm.
was like hilarious.
Right.
What do you think?
Um, so like for the first scene I'm gonna talk about,
Mhm,
I thought it was really interesting that the history of the Marvel Universe is starting to become more clear for us because we only know really up from 1941, 42, basically,
mhm,
up until the present day. We don't have anything else really in terms of good Marvel history except for maybe flashbacks from like Thor or something.
mhm,
So I think it's very interesting that we're getting a little bit of a history of what happened before the Avengers, before the superheroes came around. And then we have like Eternals that are going to be coming out that we're going to explore more of the history of that as well and basically explain the Marvel history.
mhm.
But the fact that it's a multiversal war really intrigued me. And then there's only one universe that came out on top. Was very interesting to me. I had not even thought of this as being a thing. And I kind of hope
Yeah,
that this kind of explores a little bit more about this multiverse of war, either in this series or in Doctor Strange, about like why was there a war? Why were these universes colliding with each other?
mhm.
But this also means that even though one universe reigns supreme, that means that maybe the multiverses didn't go away. They just can come back some way
Mhm.
and fight again. And maybe that's how Multiverse of Madness kind of happens.
Yeah. I kind of thought around the same lines where I was thinking like they coalesce them somehow all into
Mhm,
one single timeline, and then you got the variants that end up making it uncoalesce, break off now,
mhm,
and their goal is to just keep coalescing everything like a funnel, kind of like it breaks off, so then they funnel it back together.
mhm. And that's kind of the work of the Time Variance Authority and what they're trying to do, right? They're trying to make sure that no variations in the timeline, the main universe happens, so that way everything gets back to the way things were. And this is actually where I kind of found very interesting that, like, when Loki was on trial, and while Loki was talking with Mobius, right?
Mhm,
Everything that happened in the Marvel Universe was supposed to happen. So remember how Loki was like, why don't you prosecute the Avengers for going back in time and trying to foil my plan for trying to take over the Earth, you know, because he noticed that like something was happening with the Avengers from Avengers Endgame trying to come back.
mhm.
And I think that kind of helps support my argument with the Doctor Strange versus Iron Man thing
I was actually gonna ask you about that.
because like it means it may kind of take away my argument a little bit because like Doctor Strange used the time stone to make one reality, but in this context of the show, we find out that Avengers Endgame, everything that happened during that time basically was supposed to happen.
Mhm.
And there was never going to be interference from the Time Variance Authority because it was supposed to happen, because the timekeepers instructed that this type of event was supposed to happen. So it kind of goes against you a lot more for your argument about Tony Stark being the one to save the universe, basically, because it has basically been defined that it was supposed to happen regardless, you know?
But I feel like it devalidates yours just as much mine, in the sense that your argument was that Doctor Strange set it on that path,
Mhm.
but technically the time variance set Doctor Strange on that path, which set that other path. So technically speaking, with your argument, shouldn't it be the time variance you get the credit,
Mm.
not Doctor
Uh,
Strange?
what's the there's like going a little off topic, but what is the paradox that like does the set of all sets contain itself?
Oh, I know what you're talking about. I'm not sure what the name of it is.
Yeah. It's kind of like that, right? It's like, does the set of all sets contain itself? You know, does an infinite number of things contain an infinite number of, you know, it goes kind of like in this weird loop, right?
Mhm,
I think it validates mine a little bit more and a little bit less because I say that Doctor Strange used the time stone to create the events that happen in Avengers Endgame. We find out that Loki in actual reality is like this was supposed to happen irrespective of what was supposed to happen. And any variation that happened, we can be able to try and fix. And the evidence of that is because Loki was a variant who was not supposed to take the Tesseract away and go away from what happened. Um, but I think it still holds because let's say that some variants do occur, right? Let's say the time variance authority still does its job, right? And it still takes away all these variants. Doctor Strange is basically like a secondary means of trying to make sure that no variants happen during this timeline. So that way, in that 5 years, we can be able to get to the point of Avengers Endgame where they can go back and get the time, get all the stones, bring it back, snap everybody back, and that's it. So the time stone basically allows for a kind of security blanket, basically,
mhm.
you know?
But so you don't think it's more so that so Doctor Strange's thing was that he found the particular timeline to go down and he took it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but like the time variance also kind of did that from like the beginning of time ish,
Mm-hmm.
where since they whenever they the word when doesn't really make sense because like it's um time I don't know. It's weird. But so the time variance set a specific timeline and it's
Mm-hmm.
the timeline that Doctor Strange does that and the timeline that Tony Stark brings everyone back or saves everyone with a snap.
Mm-hmm.
Um so I feel like the time variance out Doctor Strange in a sense, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I see. Yeah.
I don't know. It's weird.
Like,
It gets really
we're
wishy
also
wash.
it's also under the impression that I remember that Doctor Strange looked at all the different variations of how the conflict came out, right? And
Yeah,
only
but
one of them that they won. So that means that the multiverse does exist, where there's multiple variations of what happens during the time of them trying to go from Infinity War to Endgame, basically, right?
mhm,
So I would think that we're also trying to assume that Doctor Strange either does or does not know about the time variance story, which we don't know about yet, because again, he's still in his like first few years of him being the Sorcerer Supreme.
mhm,
But I'm not sure if he knows about them, and that's why I think he did it because it's like just a way for the time stone to act onto this one timeline, right? To not vary away. Does he know about the time variance story? I'm not sure. He
mhm.
might,
Yeah.
but I think that this is his way of being like, okay, I'm going to try and make sure that this timeline does happen, you know, because he's seen all the outcomes. He's going to use the time stone to make this one timeline occur. Maybe he doesn't know about the time variance authority. Um, we don't know. Maybe we'll
Mhm.
find out in the Doctor Strange 2 movie, but
I don't know. Well, because he does choose eventually the one that they win on, but
mhm,
the since the Time Variance Authority never came to get him after the fact, that means he wasn't a variant, so he did what he was supposed to. That
right.
the timekeepers set in stone.
Mhm,
So it's weird because he did have like I guess the choice to in a way,
mhm,
which I understand what you mean. Um, but he also did eventually follow what the timekeepers set in stone.
yeah.
And that was kind of the argument that I was making about Iron Man, that like Doctor Strange, yeah, um, set the timeline, but it was ultimately Iron Man who fulfilled it, kind of.
Mm.
You know what I mean?
But now there's this third element that's like the higher power actually did that, that made Doctor Strange do that, that made Iron Man do that. So it's like, there's
It's
now layers upon layers of
uh,
this cake that we're trying to build. Instead
it's
of just saying, is there really just one little line that we could just say, this is this is this? Nope, we have layers upon layers. And I think I do like the complexity of it, and it's supposed to be complex because time is, as we have seen, very fragile. So
yeah. I kind of we need to re-update that post now. It needs to be who
was
of
it
these
Doctor
three?
Strange? Was it Iron Man? Or was it the Timekeepers? Who
Yeah.
was it that really did this? Who
No,
really saved the universe? The universe was going to be saved anyway, actually. So, haha.
yeah. I still go with Iron Man because well, because I mean, I think the argument against Iron Man hasn't changed in a sense. It's just
Ask
gotten
anybody
deeper.
now who now watches Loki, and if you will go like, "Hey, look, like this was supposed to happen anyway. He was going to save the universe regardless, and any variation that happened, the time variance theory would have fixed it." So, like, it was not really his choice.
Well, I mean, it wasn't, but like I don't know. He fulfilled what he was supposed to do. So whether or not like because he fulfilled what he's supposed to do, I feel like that gives him the credit. I don't know.
Mhm,
I think the argument against why the argument why Iron Man shouldn't get the credit
mhm,
has just gotten deeper. It hasn't really changed philosophically in a way.
mhm.
So the new information doesn't really change my opinion of it because it was kind of going against him in the same way as before.
Right.
But I want to see what people think now because we asked this question way back when, I think in the second episode or the first episode or something like that. So what do the
Yeah.
people at home think? Who gets the credit?
Right. Because this also gets in the question of like free will and free choice. Like, is there actually free will in the Marvel universe, or is everything set in stone by the timekeepers? And do they have free will, or are they like an aspect of the timeline too?
Yeah,
I'm like,
it's weird.
it's this super complex thing that I hope we can get kind of a resolution by the end of the sixth episode and be like, okay, now we kind of have a little bit more understanding because this series does connect to Doctor Strange too, so we will have a
Yeah.
lot more evidence of what things are happening and why things do happen, and kind of have some answers.
Yeah. It kind of reminds me of what you're saying, kind of reminds me of super determinism,
Hmm.
the quantum interpretation that one of our friends, Fernando, was talking about a little while ago.
Hmm.
And we're going to do an episode in the future about different interpretations to quantum mechanics.
Yeah,
So,
and I still hold true with my many worlds interpretation,
yeah.
which is
So,
basically like the time variance authority minus the timekeepers.
yeah, so it's weird. So it's kind of like Marvel has almost all of them built into, or it has yours and Fernando's built in together, but it,
Right.
it doesn't have mine or my preference.
Again, your argument has become less now.
uh,
Every single argument that you have fulfilled has just been squashed.
so we'll have to see about that later. But
Yeah.
yeah,
But
it's
then,
weird.
in regards to the second scene that you said about the paperweights with all those Infinity Stones,
Yeah,
did you notice that one Infinity Stone is not there?
the time one
No.
was the time one there.
Yep, the time one was there. I counted it.
Oh, I did. Yeah, that's right. Time one's the green one, right?
Correct.
Okay. I'm not sure which one wasn't there. I'm trying to go through them
It's
in
the
my mind to
Mind
see.
Stone.
Mind Stone.
Yeah. The
Interesting.
Mind Stone you can tell because it's a bright yellow one, whereas the Soul one, which was there, is like a dimmer orange one.
What do you think that means?
That means that Vision will always have the Time Stone. I mean the Time Stone, the Mind Stone. Vision always will and always had the Mind Stone. So the Mind Stone was always going to be with the Scepter, then with Vision, and then with Thanos, and then destroyed. There was never going to be a variation between that because again, we have Loki having the Scepter because Thanos had the Mind Stone,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah,
And then we had Vision with the Mind Stone. And then we
that's
had
awesome.
Thanos get the Mind Stone back to use in the Infinity Gauntlet.
That is awesome. That is so cool. I didn't even think
So
about
every
like
other
it's so
stone is
cool.
supposed to be there except for one.
Mhm. Interesting. That also leads me to another question really quick. How did the other ones get there in the first place? Right?
Right.
It's
Yeah.
weird.
Like, why is the time stone? There's multiples of like the time stone. Like, who took the time stone away from Doctor Strange or the ancient one? Like, who stole it? Like, it's supposed to be very guarded, but like someone stole it, you know?
Yeah.
Space stone, that's been everywhere. So like that one's obvious. The reality stone, that's also been everywhere, and power and everything. But I think like the time stone and the mind stone are the ones that I'm kind of weird on. And the soul stone too. Someone stole
Yeah.
this, not stole it, but someone took the soul stone. So like those three stones are like, why are those three there?
Yeah, it's weird. It's it's interesting. Because like they were destroyed um in the main
Mm-hmm.
timeline. So
Mm-hmm.
they could just grab one of each except for the mind stone. Um
Yeah.
and bring them back, I
Mm-hmm.
guess, which wouldn't be a good thing. But it's weird.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting because the Avengers took so much effort, and it's just it's funny. I just think it's so funny that like they're just sitting there. They have like
I
all
think
of
that's
them
why
sitting
everybody's so mad.
everyone's mad.
Everyone's so mad online and on social media because like they're being used as paperweights, and they're like, oh my god, why didn't the Avengers, like the time variant story, just let them use the Infinity Stones that they have so that way they could do it, and it's like, well, they're not going to interfere with the events of the timeline, obviously, unless that gets very like away from what they're supposed to happen.
Mhm,
But it's like, yeah, yeah, and also the mind, the stones don't have magic, so like, and bringing it to someone and being like, hey, we first exist, spoiler alert, and then
mhm.
we now give you this stone willy nilly, so that way your timeline gets fixed. It's just, it doesn't work out that way. You gotta think like, would it actually make sense for the time variance authority to go like, here's all these stones, please bring them back to us, and we'll make sure that, it doesn't make sense. They're trying to make sure that those stones get back to where they came from, where they got buried away from the timeline. So that
Yeah,
way, like the natural order of time stays the way it is.
yeah, like the source. She was the Sorcerer Supreme. I can't think of her
Mm-hmm.
name. Before Doctor Strange, like she said, you if you take one of them away and you don't bring it back to the moment that it got taken away, then it can cause problems.
Mm-hmm.
But
Right.
that also brings like an interesting question. Those are sitting there, not
Mm-hmm.
being brought back. So what up with that? Because they have to be brought back, don't they?
Well, I think it's evidence in the cases that they all like they have to reset whatever this timeline is, right? So it's easy to send a person back, right?
Mhm.
But then they had to fix all the variations that happened because that person
It's
left the timeline with the stone. And then they have to bring the stone back as well.
mm,
It's a tedious, like probably a bureaucratic step-by-step process that they have to like fix this, then fix this, then fix this. Because as you can see, like there's another variant that's causing all these different things to happen that are causing all these teams of TVA personnel to be killed. Um, so it's kind of like they have to clip all the branches to make sure everything gets cleaned up.
I see. Yeah, there's it's a process.
Mm.
What you're saying.
But I thought it was pretty cool to see all those Infinity Stones there. I was just like, oh my god, all the stones are there.
Just casually sitting there.
Yeah,
Yeah, I thought that was funny.
yeah.
That's funny.
Shows how
Okay.
powerful the TVA really is.
Yeah, I agree. Um, I mean, it even takes Loki aback. Like
Mm-hmm.
after that is
Because
like
like
when
there's
he
so
finally,
many.
yeah, when he, I think that's like the turning point in the episode, like in his attitude at that
Mm-hmm.
moment where it's like, this isn't a hoax. This is real.
Mm-hmm.
This is legit kind of thing.
Well, I think the turning point definitely was when Loki escapes and they're trying to find him. And luckily, like he's not going to escape with the Tesseract because it doesn't work. Magic doesn't work there,
Mhm.
and his magic doesn't work there. Um, he goes back to the room where the tape is, and I was like, he's gonna look into the future, isn't he? And he does look in the future. He sees that his mother gets killed. He sees Odin dying right next to Thor. He gets
Mm.
to see what Thor and him do in Thor Ragnarok, and see them kind of like go close together. And then he finally sees Thanos, and he gets to see his death basically. And I was kind of interested. I was like, is that actually his death? And it
Yeah,
is. It is
yeah.
his final death.
I thought he was gonna
Because
come back or something because he always
I
turns
thought there was gonna
away.
be another thing of the tape. I was gonna be like, oh, there's another thing of tape, you know. But no, that was the end of the file. So I was like, oh, that's his death. Like he's not coming back.
Yeah, I know. I saw that too, and I was like, huh. I was hoping somehow he pulled through like he always does, but
Yeah.
no.
And I think that gave him like a reality check of like, oh my God, like I turned into a good person. Like I kind of changed in my ways. And he kind of admits to Mobius that he's like, I caused pain because of my inadequacy, of my, desperate cry for help, you know?
Yeah,
And I think that that realization that he's doing it not for other people, but for himself, for his own selfish reasons, kind of makes him realize like, what is my purpose? If I think it's such a glorious purpose to be this God, this ruler of men, is that really a glorious purpose, or is that just a purpose that I've instilled in myself? You know.
yeah. I couldn't agree more.
Mhm. So the scene that I want to ask you about is a scene with him back in the day on the plane.
Is that a real historical event?
That's a real historical event.
I wasn't familiar with it. I don't think. Maybe I am, but I don't
Oh,
know by name. So
oh, okay. You want me to explain it to you? Because
I
I
w-
know all about this.
yeah, I would very much appreciate.
So this is the story of DB Cooper. It was this guy who called himself DB Cooper who went onto a plane back in 1971. He was on a
Okay,
Western Airlines flight. I forget. I think it may have been from California to Washington. I'm not entirely sure. But he got on the plane. Halfway through the flight, he took one of the flight attendants over and he was like, "Hey, I have a bomb on me."
okay,
And he demanded $200,000 in cash. He demanded to have the plane, all the passengers be left off. He demanded to have the plane to go wherever he wanted to go with the pilot and the crew, and make sure that no police presence was gonna like try and arrest him because he had
mhm,
the bomb. So they landed in Washington. They let all the passengers out, and he got his cash. He got his money, um, and they started the flight. And during the flight, he decided to take a parachute and jump out of the plane with the money and
okay.
escape. To this day, no one knows who DB Cooper was, where the money is, and basically what happened to him after he jumped out of the plane.
Well,
Because he went, huh?
As of Wednesday, no one was sure, but now we all know.
We all know it's Loki now
Yeah.
that escaped using the Bifrost,
Mhm.
which I saw in the trailer, and I immediately was like, "Oh my god, this is gonna be a great series because he's DB Cooper." That makes like it's so cool for
That's
me to
funny.
know that. Um, and if you see any sketches, you could probably look afterwards. You'll see the sketches of DB Cooper kind of look similar to how Tom Hiddleston looks. So
That's awesome.
yeah, it was really
Uh,
cool to see that. And I thought maybe it was like a part of the variation. No, it's an actual thing that happened in his timeline that was supposed to happen, and he did that. I was like, it's pretty cool. I can admit that.
that's smart. That's funny. That's so funny.
So that was the scene that I thought was really interesting for
That is
me to
interesting.
see.
Yeah, I remember watching it. And I'm like, I'm so confused. What's happening right now? What is this?
Did this actually happen? Yeah, it did
Yeah,
happen.
I was like, and were involved with Earth before the first Thor movie.
Hmm.
What? That's
Well, I
funny.
mean, Thor has come to Earth before,
Well, yeah, because you have the legends that we have on
right? The
Earth
Legends
because of
of
them.
Thor and everybody else. So
That's funny. I didn't realize it was like I was like, I'm sure this is probably based on a true story, but I'm not sure what true story.
yeah,
That's pretty
it's an
cool.
actual true story that did happen. Um, they did find a little bit of money in like the river close by, like a couple of months later,
Mhm.
because they tracked the serial numbers of all the bills that they had used. But so far, none of the bills have been used, and none of them have been really found.
They
And
can't
there have
still be
been,
tracking them, can they?
yeah, they are. And there have
How do
been
they
people
track
who,
them? Like, what if you have like a I don't know what denomination they were. What if you had $100 bill in your wallet right now that you spend tomorrow? How they know that it was spent?
mm,
Do you know?
well, there's a serial number in each bill, and there's usually like, a database of like what the serial numbers are for each bill.
Yeah,
And that kind of like shows like which ones are which.
but they have to. Someone has to record them in order to check them.
Right.
In the sense that, like, if you spend
Hmm.
one tomorrow at Market Basket, who's gonna be the person who's gonna be like, okay, the serial number on this bill is this. Let's check it with the database.
Well, it's gonna go automatically through, I think.
Does it?
Yeah.
Because you have to scan it or something.
Like if you go into a bank or an ATM, that's the one thing that you do. If you use
Oh,
money
yeah,
through a
okay.
bank or an ATM, it'll
If
go
it's
through and be like, okay, this is the serial number for this.
Yeah, I didn't even think about like if it got put in a bank. I was just thinking like if it was like you spent at Market Basket, people at
Because the
Market
bank
Basket.
also goes with like Market Basket and also other businesses when they
Yeah.
put deposits in for money. So like
Yep.
obviously at some point they're going to see when the bills get through.
Mhm. Okay, that makes sense, and it makes sense for the TV show too, because Loki doesn't need to spend Earth money.
And that's why all that money flies out of the bag because
Yeah,
that's the money that had been left in the river because that's who when they found it.
that's funny.
Yeah.
That's so funny. Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Let's see. What other scenes were there that I liked in this show?
Well,
I
there's
like the scene when he was going through the TVA, like when he first got captured, and then like, he goes through and then he like gets stripped of his like Asgardian leather. And
yeah,
then he goes through and I like the scene where he's like, sign this, this is everything that you have ever said. And he's like, what? And then another paper, sign this too. He's like, this is absurd. Sign this too. And I thought he had to like sign every single piece of paper.
I
That's
did
what I
too.
thought was gonna happen. But no, he
Yeah,
just signed the first page. It's like, okay, I guess.
that's
And then
funny.
he goes down again. And then we get the scene with Miss Minutes describing why they're in the TVA and what is happening,
Hmm.
which I find very interesting.
Yeah,
Um, and I like that it's Tara Strong who voices it. A lot of people had speculated that Tara Strong was going to be voicing Miss Minutes because of just the Southern accent, how it sounds, and everything. So,
I'm not sure if I know who that is.
oh, she's a very famous voice actress. I forget who she played. Hold on. Let me see. She was on The Fairly Odd Parents.
Who'd she play?
I think she played Timmy Turner, I think. Let me
Oh,
see.
interesting.
Let's see. Da-da-da-da-da. She was Bubbles in the Powerpuff Girls. She was
Which one's
Dill
Bubbles?
Pickles in Rugrats.
Which one's Bubbles?
I don't know. I don't know the Powerpuff Girls. I'm just like,
Me and my sister used to watch it when we were younger.
okay. Um, she was on Teen Titans Go. She was on Ultimate Spider-Man as Mary Jane.
Oh, that's funny.
Where is it? She was on Penguins of Madagascar, the TV show.
That's who.
As various voices. She was Danny Phantom on Danny Phantom.
Who was she for Danny Phantom?
She was like Ember McLean, the ghost who was like the rock star.
Oh, that's funny.
Let's see, where is yeah, she was Timmy Turner, Poof, a few other voices. So she's a very famous voice actress, at least
Oh,
for kids
mhm.
TV shows. So
Yeah. I think most voice actors are probably for kids shows. I
yeah.
think most animated things are for kids.
Mm.
Interesting.
But yeah, I definitely like that little animation, kind of giving the audience and Loki like the explanation of like why the TVA exists,
What it
why
is.
they're there.
Yeah, I thought that was very interesting.
Yeah.
And I feel like you would have blah 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 blah. I think with like the whole multiverse thing, you would have had a very strong opinion on that because it will connect directly to Doctor Strange.
Oh yeah, like anything regarding the multiverse right now. Like once
Hot
we get
topic.
Spider-Man No Way Home and Doctor Strange 2, like multiverse is gonna explode.
I can't
I
wait.
think.
Well, I mean, I can't wait to see him. It's
Yeah, I have a mini Doctor Strange alert with like the time stones, all those time stones being like kept over there as paperweights. That's like the
uh,
mini Doctor Strange alert.
so funny. Oh, I can't wait. It's gonna be
Let's see what other things. Taking a ticket, that was funny. Like the guy
awesome.
was like, "I'm not gonna take a ticket," and just go straight through.
Mhm.
And then like Loki's like, "Fine, I'll take a ticket." And then he sees that the guy who didn't take a ticket was like, "Hey, that guy was bullying me and everything." He just gets vaporized, and he's like, "Oh my god, where's my ticket?"
And he freaks out. It's
He's like,
funny to
"I
see
have
him
my
trying
tickets
like
right here. I have my ticket."
he's trying to like assert dominance while he's there, but then like left and right, he just keeps like kind of being put in his place a little bit
Mm.
to his
It-
dismay.
that scene reminded me of like Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. Remember when they're on like the Zeppelin and like the colonel comes on, like the Nazi colonel comes on, and Indiana Jones is like, "Oh my god, he's gonna recognize me." And as he goes through, he impersonates being a waiter,
Mhm.
and he asks the colonel for his ticket, and the colonel turns around, sees him, and punches him out the window of the Zeppelin. And then he's like to all the passengers because they all freak out. They're like, "Why'd you punch him?" And it's like, "No ticket." And they all have their tickets. They're like, "Oh, my ticket's right here. My ticket's right here." It's such a funny scene. So that kind of made me
I,
reminded.
for a second, I was like, I don't picture that scene, but right at the end when you said like, because he didn't have a ticket, that reminded
Mm,
me like that jogged that whole scene. That,
yeah.
oh, that is a great analogy. That is perfect. Yeah, I think there's like one more part that warrants, at least that I can think of,
Mm,
us when we find out. So at the end, they're like, Loki's like, okay, he'll be recruited, kind of thing.
hmm.
Gets recruited, then he finds out who he's been hired to hunt down
Himself.
himself.
But is it himself though?
It's
Because
weird.
we don't see who he is. We don't see who the hooded figure is. We don't see his face. We just see it's a hooded figure.
Yeah, which makes me think if it is himself, that means he somehow became a variant at some other point in
Mhm.
a previous timeline. And when was that?
Right.
So like, because he's a variant now, because the Avengers went back and kind of messed up a little bit,
Hmm.
so that sent him there. But like, if he's there also, that means it happened at a different time. And when did that happen? And
Yeah. I
so
mean, maybe it was when he did escape originally, and that caused a whole other different amount of variants to pop up as a result of just one action they did. So
maybe,
maybe that's what's being talked about.
yeah,
But I think like when they were in the French church, remember that scene?
yep,
And like Mobius sees the little girl, and the little girl, he asks her like, who did this? Do you know? Did you see who did it? And then she points at the stained glass window, and it's the devil.
yeah.
That was interesting to me because I remember a lot of people were speculating that Mephisto was going to be in the MCU from WandaVision.
Oh, you're thinking,
And then I think a lot of people are going to think like, oh my god, maybe Mephisto now
yeah,
that he's in Loki, because WandaVision, Loki, Spider-Man No Way Home, and Doctor Strange are all connected.
yeah, deeply.
So I don't know if it's truly Mephisto this time. Again,
Uh,
I'm not going to be subjugated to these speculations.
mhm.
I'm not going to let Marvel tease me again. I'm done with that after Falcon and Winter Soldier. I'm over it.
You said
I'm
that
just going
after
to let it go.
WandaVision too.
I said after WandaVision, but I was like, let's try one more time. Let's see what happens. And they don't do it again. So as long as nobody does an interview that says something like, oh, this character might come in or this thing might happen, until that time, I'm just going to let it go. And
Mhm,
if it does happen again, I'm going to be like, I'm taking that with a huge grain of salt.
mhm. That's fair. But do you remember in the trailers and stuff for this? Like Loki and the first Avengers. He has that weird hat with the horns and stuff like that.
Yeah. Mhm.
There's a part in the trailer where he's wearing that. He has like a big fur coat or something, some cloak or something.
That's what I think that's not a real. It's not the real horns. It's like the joke one where he's like running for mayor or something.
Yeah. Well, because like I feel like if he's wearing that outfit,
Mhm.
someone I don't know.
Yeah, it's weird. It could be the devil. It could be Loki with the horns. Again, we didn't see who the person is in the field, so I can't definitively say, oh, it's this, it's Loki, it's this. I can't say because like we're only going by what Mobius said, basically.
Yeah, that's a cool name too.
Mobius and Mobius.
Yeah, because the inverted Mobius strip was the key in
Hmm.
Endgame. So I just think it's funny.
Yeah,
Um, but I think it'd be cool to see Loki kind of fight on the side of good
as
against
he
whoever
should.
this is. Yeah, so it'd be kind of cool.
And see how the multiverse has broken down because I think like as we get into each episode, we're gonna see as more of the multiverses are starting to pop up, more variants are starting to happen, more events are starting to change in the universe
Hmm.
because of what Loki did. Because remember, we're kind of going back in time too, not only with Loki, but also with like the times that we have these variants. Like one of them was in like the 1500s, one of them was in the 1800s. So like there are things that are happening in the past and the future that are getting like displaced.
Yeah, I'm interested to see if they what they do that's going to be in the future, like how far
Mhm.
in the future they're going to go. Because so
Right.
far everything's been around like the past, for the most part.
Hmm.
Hasn't really been any future events. So I'm
Right.
interested to see if they do anything like that.
Mm. So that's why I'm questioning like, is it really Loki? Because that one event, does that one event that him going away from the Avengers because of the Tesseract, does that affect things in the past? You know?
Yeah,
So it's kind of a weird thing of like, does it's like the causal thing of like, does the future affect the past? You know, because you would think intuitively it doesn't. You
yeah.
know, only the past affects the future.
But does it? Because I think they said in Endgame that that doesn't even work.
But Hulk was wrong in that.
Was he?
Yeah, because remember he had to be explained by the ancient one that time doesn't work in the way that he thinks it is. It works as splitting off of the timeline, and then he had to be like, "Oh, we can replace it," you know. So he had to kind of be set in like
Yeah.
what was supposed to happen. So
Yeah, I was misinterpreting what you were saying before,
mhm.
but I know what you mean
Yeah, Hulk was wrong. You were wrong. I was partially wrong.
now. Being wrong is good. That means you learn something new,
Hmm.
right? Um,
I
but
hope that the timekeepers do make an appearance at the end of the series, at least, or maybe in an end credit scene, because it'll be the first time that we see like a celestial being, like a timekeeper, or like Galactus, or
something.
one of the Watchers. We've seen the Watchers before, but that was like a little tiny scene. Like this is a major part of the MCU with the timekeepers. So like,
Yeah, it's weird. And does um this all exists outside of time? It seems
what
like
does
the time the TVA.
I don't know, because like as Mobius said, time works differently in the TVA. So I don't know if it works outside of time, if it's an aspect of time, if it's something that controls time. Like,
It's weird because if they have
yeah.
like a whole history of everything,
Hmm.
that would suggest it's outside of time because they're watching every moment in time.
Mm,
But what does that mean?
yeah, because they can see the past and the future.
Yeah,
It's it's like being an observer. It's being an observer to like a rocket ship. Like you're not part of the rocket ship, but you're seeing the rocket ship.
exactly.
You're trying
Yeah,
to influence the rocket ship a little bit, making sure nothing like varies.
exactly. It's weird.
Any other scenes that you found very interesting or funny or
Um, I think it was funny to see Mobius and Loki talk and stuff, and when Loki had like the thing around his neck, and every time like he went to do something, go whoop,
and
and
then he did that to the lady.
yeah, I felt
She's
so
like,
bad for
"Stop
him.
it! Stop it! Stop!" And he just kept doing like very fast.
Yeah, that was funny. I think that's kind of cool.
Mm.
Um, I also liked how it started up. Started up right at the
Avengers
scene.
Endgame.
Yeah, and I thought that was good.
Hmm. And then he got shot through to Mongolia.
Or that car, if you saw that ad. That ad was genius.
The ad.
I sent you an ad on Instagram where it was
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, where I was like, this is so clever.
Hmm.
Where he ends up transporting to like a car that there some company selling. I'm not even sure what the brand of car was, but
Right, yeah.
anyway. Did you find anything, or is there any last things
Um,
that you want to point out?
I think that was like the main thing. Like he had the trial, and like he like was facing the judge, and the judge is like, there was nothing about what you did that was, your own doing. It was supposed to be whatever you were supposed to do and stuff. And I think revealing the future to him is kind of interesting. Revealing his future, like a little bit, like revealing that his mother died because of him. I
Yeah,
think it's very interesting. But then him seeing his entire future, it's like, well, I think he's good at the end. I think he's gonna go back to that point in time where like he tried to take the Tesseract in Avengers Endgame. I think he's gonna go back, and he's actually not gonna take it, and the timeline will be fine.
oh, you
But I
think they're
think
gonna put
for
him back in this timeline?
yeah, I mean, what they're gonna do is they're probably gonna reset him after they have him help clip all the branches. He's gonna go back to his timeline, so that's the last branch that they need to clip.
Hmm.
But just for that variant of him to see his entire future kind of as a surreal moment, I think he didn't believe that that was his future. And that's why he was like, it's such a glorious purpose, right?
Yeah,
And I don't know if it humbled him. I don't know if it made him want to help them or anything. Obviously, this is the 2012 Loki who didn't go through Thor the Dark World or Ragnarok or Infinity War, but
yeah,
it's still an interesting idea of how he's seeing his future, and it's like, how is he going to react to that? Is he actually going to be helpful in this case?
yeah. Yeah, because he doesn't have all the experiences, like you said,
Mm-hmm.
that end
The
up
son.
shifting him. Yeah, it's weird, and also it's like for the first time in his life, everything he does now is his decision.
Mm-hmm.
None of what he is doing right now is predetermined, as far as
Right.
we know.
Yeah, he is a variant, so that means this was not set by the timekeepers. So none of the things that are happening now are set,
Mhm.
you know?
So right now, he literally has a chance to find his glorious purpose, which I think is what the series will be about, him
Mm-hmm.
helping the whole multiverse in some way, and that will
Yeah.
be the glorious purpose. 'Cause that would be a
Mm-hmm.
glorious purpose instead of the previous glorious purpose of the Loki that we see throughout the whole MCU,
Mm-hmm.
which his purpose they mentioned was just to help everyone fulfill themselves,
Right.
so, which is also a pretty glorious purpose. But
Mm-hmm.
this one would be more of a glorious purpose, I think, from his perspective.
Yeah. Any other final thoughts about the first episode of Loki?
Not that I can think of. How about you?
I think we've covered a lot of good material in a good amount of time.
Okay, show me your comic books.
All right. So, funny enough, the first book I'm going to show you is actually quite appropriate for this week.
Is it
This
Loki?
is Journey into Mystery number 88. This is the second appearance of Loki,
That's pretty cool. His outfit.
right?
That's so
What's that?
cool. I like his outfit.
Oh, yeah.
Uh,
Let's zoom into it.
that's so funny.
It's a
What
very
are
nice
they? Do
cover, too.
you mind if you read
You
what they're
want to
supposed?
read it?
Yeah, please. Okay. Is that Odin, Loki, and Thor?
Yeah, it's Odin.
Heed my words, Thor. Though both of you are my sons, you must defeat me for sake of mankind. Ooh, that doesn't happen in the TV show or in the movie.
No.
Nothing. Ooh, what's the secret of his hammer? I shall not.
Who
I
knows?
didn't read Thor's yet. Okay, I'm a slow reader. I shall not fail no matter what the. Uh... Okay, so what's the secret of Thor's hammer?
Wish I knew.
Dun dun
Hey.
dun. I had to do it.
Yeah. So I thought this was really appropriate for
That is perfectly
doing it.
appropriate. Yeah.
It's just happened by coincidence, but it's not like I had this for a long time and I'm just gonna show it to you. Like this is something I got a couple of weeks ago. So
I actually have one really quick question. Um,
yes,
is this so the movies are loosely based on the comic books?
yes.
Is this show based on any comic book?
It's not that I'm aware of. I know the Time Variance Authority is part of Marvel Comics. Obviously, Loki is, but I don't know if Loki and the Time Variance Authority come together. So I think this might be just two parts coming together.
Cool. Okay, that's my question.
Next, another Thor book. We have Journey into Mystery number 109. This is just a nice Magneto cover.
That's interesting. I never thought about that because he can control metal, and Thor's hammer is metal.
That's what I should have done as a joke. Is like, can Magneto throw Thor's hammer
You
just because it's magnetic?
you have to do it next time.
No one gets to know. But yeah, apparently he can.
Oh, really?
I mean, you can see he's using his magnetic powers
So,
to.
so he can't physically pick it up, but he can use the magnetic powers.
Right.
So does that mean a Jedi can pick it up with the Force?
Yes.
That's cool. Or Thor. Everyone's like taking his thunder. Pun intended. No pun intended.
He's stealing his thunder, man.
Exactly.
All
I
right.
remember I was watching this Chris Hemsworth. Sorry, I was watching this Chris Hemsworth interview, and like they were talking about like Thor's hammer and stuff like that, and they were answering like most Googled Marvel questions. And one of them
Mhm.
was, "Who in the Marvel universe can pick up Thor's hammer?" And Thor was like, "Too many pick up Thor's hammer. Only Thor can pick up Thor's hammer." And it was just funny or something like that. It was just
Mm.
I felt bad for him. I'm sure he was joking, but you know, like how
Yeah.
Thor's like character is like also kind of insecure a little bit about himself. It was kind of like
Right.
that. Okay, keep going. I keep
All
distracting.
right. Next one is a very, very nice cover it's one of my favorite covers, I would say,
Mhm.
of comic books. It's X-Men number 50. It's the second appearance of Polaris. First appearance is in 49, but this is just a very nice
That
Steranko cover,
that is a great cover.
right? I don't
I'm
really
not sure
like
who
greens that
that
much,
is, but
but greens really work with this cover.
it does. I'm not sure who that is, but it looks great.
This is Polaris.
I'm not sure who that is.
Oh, okay.
Like as a character.
Hmm. Well, she might appear in the MCU, so you'll be able to know.
We'll see.
I know you get most of your Marvel knowledge from the MCU, so
I get almost all of my knowledge from the MCU, and the only
yeah,
time I get knowledge outside of the MCU is from you.
basically, I'm
Actually,
your
no, I got the
conduit.
Captain America books, but other than that,
That's only for one particular
yeah,
character.
exactly.
All right, next one is one that's going to be very relevant in a couple of months. This is Special Marvel Edition number 16.
Ooh,
This is the second appearance of Shang-Chi.
Master of Kung Fu. Um, ooh, interesting.
Also, first appearance of Midnight Sun, but he's a character who dies at the end of this comic book, so it's not really a relevant character.
Uh-huh. Maybe he's
More
the
relevant
villain
is,
in the Shang-Chi movie, and that thing's gonna skyrocket.
yeah. I mean, the first appearance is already skyrocketing, but this one is pretty affordable right now. So, and this is a very clean copy. So,
That is nice. Looks
yeah.
cool.
So, if you can't get the first appearance, I'll say this again: get the second appearance.
You said that in one of your videos, right?
Yes, it's my advice to anybody who wants to collect comic books.
You should put that in words on the bottom of the video. Key takeaways from this video.
Disclaimer.
What was that?
As a disclaimer.
Exactly.
All right.
Okay.
Next one is one of the only DC books that I have in this pile. We have,
DC. I'm just kidding.
yeah, Forever People number 1. This is the first full appearance of Darkseid.
Ooh.
Mm-hmm. And first mention of the mother boxes.
I'm not sure what that is.
From the Justice League movie. Remember the mother boxes, the actual boxes that, like, if you put them together, like, destroys the planet?
Is that from the extended version?
It's from the regular Justice League movie, too.
I've only seen it once, and that was like 6 years ago, or whatever it was.
And he has not watched the the Zack
That
Snyder cut yet,
I
so
have not.
you just admitted your fault. um,
I like
Bad
DC. I just haven't had. Uh,
time.
well, I've had time. I haven't had motivation. I'm not gonna blame it on time. I've been
Jeez.
watching other stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
I've been
This is the first,
rewatching old series from my
this is also
childhood.
the first appearance of the Forever People.
I don't know who they are either.
Yeah,
My DC knowledge isn't as vast.
it's not a very good team. I mean, I don't really like this cover. I don't like this whole.
Mobile.
Yeah, I don't like this. Superman even doesn't do it justice. Like, I, it's just because it has Darkseid in it. That's the only reason why I like
Mhm.
this. Not the best cover, but all right. Next, we have Detective Comics number 474. This is the first modern appearance of Deadshot.
You explained them to me before. I believe.
Deadshot is Will Smith's character in Suicide Squad.
Yep.
Easy,
Yes.
easy way to do it. Master marksman.
Batman has a big cape there.
Yeah, it almost looks like this has like a character with eyes.
It kind of does, yeah. No capes.
Tom McFarlane has a lot of good artwork with the capes, with
That is
Batman's
a nice
great.
cover.
Yeah. All right. Final book billion. This is the best one probably of all these books. You thought all these were nice? This
I
is
did.
probably the nicest one. As you probably know, X-Men will probably come into the MCU at some point. So any X-Men book is hot right now. Very, very on fire. But this one is really good. Really,
Okay.
really good. This is X-Men number 3. Third appearance of the X-Men. First appearance of the Blob. This guy right here. You may remember him from X-Men Origins Wolverine when Wolverine was in the boxing ring. He was fighting up against the Blob.
Ooh,
This character.
that's cool.
Very, very early
That
X-Men book.
who's the person in the bottom? Is that the Silver Surfer?
This one.
Yeah.
So
Or
this is
Iceman?
Iceman,
Iceman.
Cyclops, Angel. I forget who this is. Sorry. Off the top of my head, I forget. But this is the original X-Men team too. It's not the new one that we see in the movies and stuff.
That's cool. That is a nice cover. Who's at the
Mhm.
very top?
This one?
Above the word men.
Oh, that's Angel still.
Okay,
That's
I was like, it looks like the same person, but I wasn't
it
sure.
is. Yeah.
Very cool. Why is
Mhm.
that the best one?
Because it's the earliest X-Men book that I own. It's the third
I
appearance of the X-Men, first appearance of a major character, the Blob.
I see. That's a nice one. I like it.
Because like my main four that I collect are Spider-Man, X-Men, Fantastic Four, and Batman. Those are the main four that I would say. Like if I were to streamline and only do a certain couple of characters, those would be the four.
So you're gonna have one episode in the mini series for each of those then.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Let's go to the final word now, since you don't have anything. Spoiler: he never has anything available.
I don't. Let me think of a question actually. See if I can think of something really quick. I had a question actually earlier that I thought of that might be interesting to talk about now, but I lost it.
It's lost in the abyss.
Unfortunately. What was it? Oh, I'll ask this question. The people out there. Okay. So the people out there, if you had to learn one form of martial arts, which one would it be? So would it be boxing, MMA, judo, kung fu, some other form that you've heard of, and why? Which one do you think would be most useful to start
That's
your
a
journey?
very niche question.
Yeah, it's a very niche question, and I'm just curious because
Mhm.
I asked you, I believe.
You did not.
Did I not?
Okay.
Okay. I meant to. Dang it. um,
Shoot.
so I texted a few people over a couple of days. Are you sure I didn't text you? Maybe I didn't send it. That's okay. I'll
I
ask you
will
now.
look it up.
But I was thinking about taking like a self defense class for over the summer. Because I used to wrestle back in my day, and it's good for grappling and stuff like that. It's not necessarily great for hand-to-hand combat. So I was thinking I want to learn maybe some self-defense, and I have a martial art in mind, but the people I've texted aren't interested in it. It's called Bagua. At least that's the shorthand name for it.
Mhm.
It's really weird in the sense that it's very niche, not weird. Um, Not many people have heard of it. It's the martial art. What I like about it is twofold. One, it's the martial art airbending's based off of, and that was my favorite in Avatar: The Last Airbender series. I liked airbending better than the rest. That was just my preference.
Mhm.
I mean, the whole Avatar thing with all of them is really cool, but airbending. Okay, anyway, um, so airbending's based off of that martial arts, and it also has no, for the most part, punching in it. There's no aggressive tactics. So whenever you take a self defense course like kung fu or judo or something like that,
Mhm.
not judo because I don't think there's punching in judo like wrestling, but like kung fu or MMA, you're gonna be punching people. I don't want to do that. So Bagua I think is a good one because you learn how to defend yourself, stand up, but you don't have to punch. It's more using like their weight against them and like dodging and kind of being more passive, but still defending yourself. And I thought
Mhm.
that would be fun. So that's the one I would choose. And I was just wondering if anyone out there had one. It's a very niche question, so you may not have one, but yeah.
I don't have one at the moment. Get back to me, and I will do my research and see which one I want.
Let me actually ask this question. It'll be a little bit better. Which of the four elements in Avatar, if you've seen it, did you like better? Because I liked airbending the best.
I like fire.
That one was your favorite?
Yeah,
How come?
it's fire. Burn things.
Okay. Fair answer. Fair answer.
Why would I
uh,
want to lift ground? Why would I want to move air? Why would I want to lift water when I had fire? I literally have energy coming out of my body. Like, hello.
well, I mean, what if like you're like really thirsty and like you don't want to get up, you just water bend some water to you, or you want to get to like the 10th floor of a building, but you don't want to climb them, you just go, you shoot up there, or you could fly up there with
Hydrological
it.
cycle. I'll get fire, put it up in the sky, and it'll start to evaporate all the water. It'll go up, and then it'll condense, turn into water droplets. Boom, get water. Done.
Boom.
Like everything.
uh, that's funny.
I can
Okay.
also dry up a lake bed, it'll evaporate, and then it'll create water because of the hydrological cycle. So,
So okay, I'm gonna post this on Instagram. I want to see people vote. I want to see like which one gets more.
yeah,
Um,
do like the one that has the 1, 2, 3, 4 option.
yeah, but do you have to put a correct answer for those ones?
You do, but you could say like no correct answer is required.
Oh, okay, good. I'll try to do that.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm interested to see what the people. Oh, also, people here, we have an Instagram now. um,
Guess what the
it's
name of it is? It's
yeah,
the name of the podcast.
exactly. So if you search that, it'll be the same little circle picture that it is for the YouTube.
Icon.
Uh, what's the word? Profile
Thumbnail
picture.
icon.
Yeah. So click on that. Click follow, and thank you. Okay. So we'll see you next time. Right. Unless you have a final thing to say.
I have no final things to say in the final word, even though we didn't really jump into the final word.
We
We're
didn't do the
fine.
final. My final word is I can't wait for the next episode.
Me too. I think
Okay.
it's gonna be even better than the
Mhm.
first.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Done. You have to keep that awkward
Scenery.
silence in, please. Okay. Do you want to like officially end it, or can I
Yeah,
stop
let's end
recording?
it. Let's end it now before we do something stupid.
Okay. Too late. No, I'm kidding. Okay.
Oh, I thought we already ended it.
Okay. Do you want me to?
I thought that's what you meant, like stop the recording.
Okay, let me stop it. I have to move the piece of paper that the people on who subscribe to the Instagram knows. It says, "Smile and keep your mouth closed." Hey, I have my specific knowledge. It's just,
You have a lot of Captain America knowledge.
yeah. Well, I feel like I have a lot of physics knowledge, and it's very specific
Yes.
in such a small niche in physics that
Mhm.
even when we talk about physics, it doesn't come up a lot. So, it's like I got like this little niche inside this other subfield that's in this other field of physics, and it's
Right.
like if we unless we talk about that one specific thing, it's like
Mhm. I think it's because like I'm a polymath, so I know a lot of stuff about a lot of
yeah,
topics.
I'm
Like I
trying.
know not just about physics and about comic books and MCU, but I know about history. I know about literature. I know about a lot of stuff. So like,
Yeah, I'm trying to broaden my horizons.
which is good because I think most science people don't do that because I think they kind of take down social sciences and history and all that stuff instead of actually appreciate them. Like I definitely appreciate it. So like
Magic,
this is
that's one.
magic. There's another one, yeah.
I know a
Although you're
lot
getting
of
better at it.
yeah. Well, I know a lot of magic stuff.
Mhm.
So there we go. I feel vindicated.
I think I did say this. Like your three major things that you're an expert in are physics, Captain America, and Marvel, and magic. I said
I
that
think
during the quiz one, and we proved that.
I think we did. Yeah, I think so. Way back when.
Whereas I am the polymath of the two of us.
Yeah, I'm the
You're the specific knowledge.
yeah. I'm the what's the there's a perfect analogy here between us. I'm just not sure what it is. It's like you're the generalist, I'm the specificist.
Specificist.
That's not a good analogy.
Yeah. I'm broad. You're specific.
I guess. Yeah.
I'm out there. You're in there.
Yeah. It's gotta be some. There's a perfect analogy here.
Concave, convex. I don't know.
I'm not sure.
We're just different. We're different in our ways of thinking.
Yeah. Which is good. 'Cause then
Mhm.
you get perspective.
Yep. I learn stuff from you. You learn stuff from me. So.
Exactly.